Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1519B, and today's date is March 12th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Deep State Dead Cat Bounce Might Be More Than One Event. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, since the event in Florida, we see that Trump has pushing his plan for federally funding programs which would arm and train teachers in schools. And he said, and he tweeted out, if schools are mandated to be gun-free zones, violence and danger are given an open invitation to enter. Almost all school shootings are in gun-free zones. Cowards will go where there is no deterrent. And we can see right now that he's pushing for teachers to have weapons. It's on a voluntary basis. Those people that volunteer, they'll get trained and they'll be able to carry a weapon to protect the students. And we see right now that this is basically shifting the narrative away from gun control. Now, I know in the beginning he came out and he said, listen, yeah, we'll be looking at the age and we'll discuss and we'll see what we can do. And right now, Trump says that, he's going to let the courts decide before acting on age restriction. Now, of course, when all this started to happen, he just came out and said, we'll see, we'll take a look at. He never committed to anything. And this is what he does. He goes along with the corporate media. He gets on their side for them to basically drop what they're trying to do. And their agenda was to show that, he is for the NRA, he's for guns and things like that. And he tried to switch the narrative, which he was kind of successful in doing it, where he said that we need to look at arming the teachers, making these school zones much more difficult to carry a weapon into the schools because they're gun-free zones. And he was pushing this narrative out there. And of course, the corporate media didn't like this whatsoever, because basically what they want to do is they want to have marches and they want to say, let's get rid of all the weapons. That's been their plan all along. We see right now that Florida, they passed a law where they're saying that you have to be 21 years or older to purchase a weapon. The NRA right now has filed a lawsuit saying that this is basically a breach and violation of the Constitution and the rights of the people. The complaint says the new law prohibits law-abiding citizens between the ages of 18 and 21 from lawfully purchasing a firearm of any kind. The lawsuit cites a report that in 2015, only 1.8% of those arrested for a violent crime were women in that age bracket, while men at the age group made up about 8.7% of arrests for violent crime. The complaint also says the law violates the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause by banning adults between 18 and 21 from buying guns, but does not apply such a ban to adults 21 and over. And also they're banning women from purchasing these weapons. And how many mass shootings have been caused, if you go by the corporate media's official story, how many mass shootings have been caused by women? Really, like none. And they're actually violating the rights of women. And they're being lumped into this. So you can see right now the push is on. And again, the right to own a weapon, there is no age. It doesn't say you have to be 14. It doesn't say you have to be 18. I mean, think about it. Today, they can bring you into the armed forces. They can have drafts and have you go into the armed forces. They can train you on weapon systems. They can teach you how to use a real machine gun. They can show you how to use a hand grenade. They can show you how to use missile launch systems. That's okay. But having a weapon at 18, a shotgun, or anything else, that's not okay. Think about this for a second. Yes, people are going to say, well, those people in the armed forces, they're trained. So train the people who are 18 on the streets. What's the problem with that? Again, they're violating the rights of the people. And what they do is they do this very, very slowly. They start off with a simple little thing like, ooh, let's make it 21. Oh, you know what? Let's ban that. Let's ban this. And before you know it, they keep adding these laws. I mean, you know how many gun laws we have today? Thousands upon thousands upon thousands. Have any of these laws worked? Think about the oldest law that we have. Thou shalt not kill. Does that stop people from killing? I mean, it is a law. It says you can't do it. You'll be arrested and maybe put to death. But has it stopped anyone? For thousands of years? No, it hasn't. Laws don't stop bad people from doing bad things. Yes, those good people will look at the law and they just won't do it because they're good people. But bad people, they don't care about the laws. I mean, they don't care about stealing. They don't care about dealing drugs. They don't care about killing. They don't care about anything like that. They could care less about the laws, because if they did care about the laws, they wouldn't do these things. But once again, we just keep on adding more and more laws. It makes no sense. Well, it makes sense to some of us. We all know what has happened here. We all know the anomalies, and that's all I'll say about that. Now, a couple of reports ago, even yesterday, we were talking about the Skripal case where this British spy, Sergei Skripal, most likely a double agent, was poisoned and left both him and his daughter critically ill. And British Prime Minister Theresa May has finally spoken about the murder attempt on the former British spy Sergei Skripal, saying that, listen, we really don't have much evidence, but we do believe it's Russia. And instead of proving them guilty, we would like to have Russia prove that they're innocent. I mean, think about what they're saying right now. I mean, it's just unbelievable that they're reversing the burden of proof. Prove that you're innocent, instead of us having to gather all the evidence and present a case and show that Russia was responsible for this. The reason why they're reversing the burden of proof is because they can't find any evidence, because it wasn't Russia. But they don't want to look at that, and they put this propaganda out there, and The Guardian and the rest of the corporate media, they're out there, pushing this idea that Russia should prove that they're innocent. We see out in Italy, new statistics from the recent Italian election show that 75% of the youngest first-time voters born in 1999 voted for anti-establishment parties. The data, which was compiled by Italian polling firm SWG, shows that the vast majority of young first-time voters reject the political establishment. We're starting to see a movement now. We're starting to see individuals in all different countries saying, you know something? We're done with the establishment. We want something completely different. And this is why people are getting out there and saying, we want something different that's not part of the establishment. And we're starting to see this movement around the world. Now, the central bankers, the deep state, they're very nervous about this. They don't like this. They don't want this. And they've been trying to stop it for a very long time now because they see the writing on the wall. They see what has been happening from the referendum in Spain with Catalonia. They see it out in the UK with the Brexit. They see it here in the United States with Trump. They see it now in Italy. And this is going to continually spread because people are fed up. I mean, we've been living under their rule for a very long time. And around the world, the situation has not improved. It has gotten worse. Countries are in a huge amount of debt. A lot of people don't even have jobs. And the unemployment rate in many of the countries are very, very high. The banks are insolvent. And one small hiccup, the whole system comes crashing down. Now, out in North Korea, we can see the peace talks are proceeding. Now, Mnuchin was out there. This is the Treasury Secretary of the United States, is saying that he is not going to be removing any of the sanctions, keeping the maximum pressure on North Korea. Well, Trump has already had the meeting with Kim Jong-un. Russia was there, China was there, South Korea was there. The deal has been set. This is why Trump is coming out and he's so positive about this deal. Now, North Korea, they might give the United States a gift, and they might release prisoners to show that they're sincere about what is happening. Now, I believe this was already set. I believe this was part of the deal, and they're going to maybe release American detainees to show here we are with, and this is good faith. This is how we want to proceed. And the White House is saying, listen, there is no added conditions for North Korean talks. I know the corporate media is out there with all their analysts and people that know what they're talking about, saying that there are preconditions, that we want this, we want that. No, that's the deep state talking. The same analysts said we were going to war and North Korea was going to be firing a nuclear missile, at Chicago, into Alaska, into Hawaii, wherever they wanted to pick, that's what they were saying. And we are preparing our war plans to go into North Korea. Again, all these idiots, completely wrong. No clue what was really going on. They're just spouting what the intelligence agencies want them to spout. It's called propaganda. They are allowed to use it on the American people. Most of the news coming out of these news organizations, it is pure propaganda. And they just keep spouting it over and over and over. There are no preconditions. The deal is already set. What we're going to be seeing and what the corporate media is going to be reporting is the show for them and for the rest of the world. But everything else has already been agreed upon. I mean, right now Trump is saying that North Korea has promised not to conduct any missile tests up to and during the planned meeting. Yes, it's already done. And he's also out there saying that the upcoming direct talks with North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un might be the greatest deal that the world has ever seen. Now, a couple things might happen with this. We most likely will see maybe a reunification of South Korea and North Korea, denuclearization, and we can see peace in the region. And once again, China wants North Korea, South Korea, on the One Belt, One Road system. We see Russia is going to be implementing the S-400 missile system with Turkey in early 2020. It looks like Turkey wants the air defense missile system very, very quickly. They don't want to wait. Now, the corporate media is out there, and we're seeing it in all the different newspapers and online corporate media sites where Mattis is out there. This is Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, warning that Syria on Sunday that it would be very unwise for the regime to use chemical weapons against civilians in their country. Now, we know that Assad is not using chemical weapons. We know he's not using it on his own people. We know that he gave up all his chemical weapons. The U.S. signed off on it. Russia signed off on it. China, the UN, Syria, everyone signed off on it, and they were destroyed. The groups that have the chemical weapons are the White Helmets, al-Nusra, the moderate rebels, the Islamic State, and the other terrorist groups that are there. They're the ones who are using chlorine gas. They were manufacturing sarin until that plant was taken down, because once the Islamic State is, had to leave because they were losing, they found the areas where they were producing the sarin gas. A lot of the sarin gas was shipped in from Iraq and other areas where the deep state had control of those areas, and they had the sarin gas, so they took it and they moved it into Syria so they could use it there. But the reason why they're playing this up right now, where, first of all, Mattis says there's no evidence whatsoever that Assad has used chemical weapons, and he did say, they better not use them, but they're playing that part of it up because what I think they're doing right now is they're getting ready for a major event. And they're getting prepared because they're going to try to do something out in Syria, much larger than they've done in the past. And I think this dead cat bounce that Q was talking about is going to be multiple events. I don't think it's just going to be one. Is it going to happen at the same time? No. But what I think is going to happen is there might be an event here on the soil of the United States, and then events out in the Middle East, or maybe even near North Korea, to try to rattle Trump's chain there, to get him all nervous and afraid. Maybe they will fire a missile from a sub in the region to make it look like North Korea is doing something. But I do believe that they're going to try multiple events. And this is going to be the dead cat bounce that Q was talking about, where they're going to try one last try. Now, I think it's not going to happen, on Tuesday and they're going to try everything all at once. I think one at a time, but they're going to be very close together. The reason why I think this is they're going to want to create as much chaos as possible to flood the news cycles. Because right now, the news cycles are things they don't really want to report on, and this is why they're going after a lot of propaganda, a lot of emotional things that don't even matter at this point, but they're going to keep playing those other things up until they get something else in the news cycle. And this is why I think it's going to be a multiple type of an event where they can have one thing after another to keep the news cycle very, very busy, to not report on anything else and keep everyone else in the dark who pays attention to the corporate media. But as we can see, we sift through all of that, and most of it is just absolute junk. And what we're seeing right now is that Kaspersky is out there, and researchers, they've uncovered new malware that has apparently been used to spy on victims in the Middle East and Africa for 6 years undetected. And what they're saying, this malware is called Slingshot, and it has been infecting victims, collecting a wide variety of data and exfiltrating it in a covert fashion. The company says the threat is likely the work of a resource-rich government. I wonder which government that could be. I wonder what intelligence agency is using this. Now, Slingshot is very complex, and the developers behind it have clearly spent a great deal of time and money on its creation. Its infection vector is remarkable, and to the best of their knowledge, and unique. Now, the researchers say that Slingshot's infection vector for most victims is unknown, but that in some cases the attackers gained access to and deployed the malware through routers manufactured by MikroTik, a Latvian company. In those cases, the victims unknowingly download a dynamic link library, DLL, from the router that was placed by the APT. From there, the DLL continues to download other malicious components. The Slingshot malware framework can gain control of computers at the kernel level, giving the group complete control of victims' devices. It does this by loading vulnerable drivers into the computer and running its own code through the router vulnerabilities, and they can take control. And they've been doing this throughout the Middle East and Africa to spy on people out there. And we see right now, this does look like the work of maybe Vault 7, CIA, intelligence, to get an understanding of what people are doing out there, getting understanding of, is there a revolution growing? Are people rising up? How can we keep our puppet governments in power? And I believe this is why they were out there. Also in Africa, keep an eye on what Russia, China, what they're doing out there, what people are talking about. And we can see right now, the intelligence agencies, the deep state, they are backed into a corner. It's getting worse for them every day. These investigations are going on. We already see that the investigation in FISA, Uranium One, there's already an investigative group that's already out there doing it. And they're gaining evidence, they're gaining documentation, and I would see maybe in a month or 2 or 3 months or 4 months, all of a sudden we start to hear a lot of information come out from the government, the Department of Justice, saying that this is who we have, this is the evidence that we collected, and full investigations are now being opened up. And the corporate media, well, who knows what they'll do at that point. But this is the part where they're trying to keep the news cycles very busy because they don't want that information out there. And the deep state is trapped at this point. I mean, the only way out of this whole situation that I see is to have the event of all events. And I think eventually they're going to have to either move in that direction or fold, because as we can see, if Trump and the Patriots go after the central bank, cut off all the funding, that will end the deep state. If he just goes after the deep state and prosecutes certain individuals, this whole thing does not end. It continues. So it has to be in all the central bank and the deep state, or if that doesn't happen, this whole nightmare will continue and it will not end. This is what we're watching, and we can see this is the direction I believe that he is moving in. I see already with North Korea, I see already moving out to Iran, I see already with the Middle East, where the troops will be coming home. All these propaganda articles about the U.S. going in there, this is Dan Coates and the rest. This is what they wanted. They want to go into Syria because they haven't finished their mission. Their mission was to remove Assad. Their mission was to get into Iran. Their mission was to control all the Middle Eastern states. It didn't happen, but they're still pushing for their goal. They'd never give up. And this is why you hear all the time the corporate media out there saying, well, we might invade. We have a war plan. We have this. That's their dream. This is their plan. And they keep pushing it out there like nothing has changed. Everything has changed. Everything has changed. They're not in control anymore. They're losing control every single day. They just don't know it yet. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.